Good morning. My name is Caitlin. Welcome to the podcast if this is your first time, and if not, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. Today I am going to talk more about the program that I'm going through. I know I only got to Unit 3 yesterday, or 2 days ago. Yesterday I had an appointment, so I wasn't able to record. I went to the rheumatologist and she confirmed that I am most definitely quite hypermobile, so yay. My joints have kind of been hurting ever since then, I think because of doing the different motions to kind of show that I was hypermobile. My body was like, I don't like that. We don't do that for a reason. So, I have a heating pad on today, so that's what this thing is. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna try to just manage things, I guess. It just kind of confirms that, like, there's not fibromyalgia going on, or, she said it doesn't look like there's any underlying, like, autoimmune disease or anything, which I wasn't really thinking that there was. I do think that, there may be a couple of other things I want to look into, but at this point, it's just physical therapy and strengthening, not doing the things that hurt. So it's really good that I have kind of structured my life in a way that I don't have to basically do anything physical labor-wise. So yeah. I feel like that's pretty much all that happened. It's been pretty uneventful this week, which I appreciate because, you know, every week that I work, I'm like, am I gonna quit? When am I gonna quit? Like, I don't want to quit. That's why I'm still trying. But working the typical American schedule, full-time work schedule, is just not structured for a lot of people, not just me. Actually, I learned some very cool stuff from another podcast I was listening to called the Neurodivergent Women podcast. So definitely go check that out if you want to hear some things from scientists and clinicians, people that have been in the field for a long time and know what they're doing. And one of them is neurodivergent herself, so that's pretty cool. They have guests on. They don't know I exist. I'm just telling you because I find their show very interesting. But I learned from them that basically our work schedule, which I know I'd heard this somewhere else too, but our work schedule is based off of the male hormone cycle. So basically, men have a 24-hour hormone cycle every day. It's always the same. And it's, you know, like that, the working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or really any day of the week, is totally fine for most men. Not saying that all men, obviously there are neurodivergent men that struggle with that schedule and other disabilities, but the neurotypical able-bodied man has no problem with a 9 to 5. That is not, like, that's how it's structured. It's structured for that. Now, when you think of women, we don't have a 24-hour hormone cycle like men do. We have a monthly hormone cycle. So, for us, having the same 2 days off a week really isn't going to be structured the best for our abilities and strengths. And that, we really need to be able to take off like 3-4 days at the beginning of our period to fully rest and allow ourselves to go through, which is a extremely draining process. Your body is expelling a lot of energy during that time in order to later on be, have more energy and be more productive and have this kind of upswing in energy just following your period. So very, very cool stuff. I definitely want to look more into that. I feel like we don't talk about hormone cycles and what that really means for women much at all in school, and I think that that's really a disadvantage. Not to mention the way school is structured is really not structured for women either, or really anyone. It is very really anybody that's neurodivergent, has a disability, or is a woman is going to have issues with keeping a normal school schedule, a normal work schedule. It's just the fact that we have those expectations as society is really frustrating. Anyways, so basically I'm realizing that my problem with keeping this type of schedule is not just mine. I'm actually probably, in like a good, I don't know, maybe 50%. This is totally pulling this off the top of my head. But it seems like maybe 50% of the population or more this type of schedule doesn't actually work for, and we just kind of, the system's already in place, so we can't really make it hard to change. So I know that a lot of people are trying to with doing hybrid work and having more flexible work schedules, so that's great. We definitely need more of that. We need more understanding when it comes to when and how we can work, how we can best support our strengths and utilize our strengths, because instead we tend to really push ourselves to be the same every day. And that's just not, especially for women, but also in general, you're just not going to be at the same level every single day. So we should be working with our bodies, not against them. Anyways, that's my little rant for today. So let me go over some more notes. I hate you. Oh my god. Not you, the light. I turned it off earlier, but it saw me move apparently and was like, oh, you want me on? No, I hate the fluorescent lighting. Yeah, don't mind me just talking to the lights. I do talk to things a lot. I would talk to things a lot more if I had any alone time, ever. sorry, I am often around someone, so I don't tend to do things like that as much because I don't like being perceived. I have a really hard time being myself when I know that other people can see me, even if it's just my family, even if they're in the other room, but like I know they could hear me. Yeah, I don't know. It's a problem. It's one of the reasons why I don't really do any of the hobbies that require me to make noise or anything, like, or move. Basically, I don't like people perceiving me doing stuff. I did have one other thing I wanted to talk about, which was, do other people find that they mimic other people's accents? And even if they don't mimic them in person, it becomes like their internal voice gets an accent. Because this podcast, the Neurodivergent Women podcast, they're Australian. And my internal voice, the voice in my head, is Australian right now. And I don't know why. I am speaking in an American accent because that's my accent. But my inside voice is Australian. And then also, when you're actually like in a place, like if you travel abroad, anywhere, really anywhere, you don't even have to be abroad, it could just be a different region that has a different accent. So in the US, it could be going from where I live in Maryland to, you know, the South, or like where my cousins live in Tennessee, and just like starting to pick up the accent without even noticing it. And then later on, you're like, oh crap, I am talking in an accent right now that's not mine. When I went to Switzerland, I started to speak in an accent. I'm not even sure what it would be considered because they speak 3 languages there, but Swiss accent, you know, speaking English, but having an accent. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm like not trying. Actually, you know, when I do notice, sometimes I try to stop and it doesn't work, and it's just like I'm not trying to. I'm so programmed to mimic, which makes it really easy for me to sing. Now, I used to be a performer back when I could practice alone in a soundproofed, insulated music room at school, and I could listen to a song and repeat it back to somebody, you know. In choir, I was like really, really good at mimicking. It made it a little bit harder for me to learn how to read sheet music because my ability to mimic was a lot stronger than my ability to read, so I knew what I was supposed to do without actually knowing on paper what I was supposed to do. But mimicking kind of helped me in being able to learn how to read when it came to choir like that. I think it's the best way for me to learn is I know what that's supposed to sound like, so I can kind of connect the two. So I was kind of learning in reverse, I guess, of how most people learn is they read and then they play, and for me, I was playing it and then reading it, and kind of connecting them that way. But so it's not necessarily a bad thing that I am good at that. It's just like it helps with work too. You know, I see someone do something one time, and if I do it immediately or like really close to when they do it, I can do it almost exactly the same. You know, when I was doing floral arrangements, with my partner's mom, she would give me an example, like she would do an example, have me watch her do it, and then I could just do it. So that's great. It can definitely be a skill. Oh my god, I hate you. Anyways, uh, um, but, I mean, it was awesome when they were like, wow, the other people helping out with the floral arranging. They're like, wow, you were able to do that, like, really fast. Like, you just picked it up like that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm good at that. Sometimes I forget that I'm good at things. I just think everything's hard. But no, I do have strengths, and but sometimes it's weird when when it comes to accents and you're like, I don't want to be copying this person, or like, why does my inside voice have an accent right now? Like, this is weird. Like, every time I have an inner monologue. Sometimes it's dialogue. Sometimes I'm talking back and forth to myself. But yeah, it's got an accent right now. So, Now, onto this part. I feel like half of my episode is just me talking about things, but that's the whole reason why I started this. Unit 4. Unit 4 in my neurodiversity support training is about neurodiversity in the workplace. Wow. Look, it actually is connected. I totally wasn't paying attention to that either, so, yeah. Sensory sensitivities. So today, I walked in with my glasses on, and with these on, and I will probably put the earplugs, the loops back in. I've been needing those, a little bit more, I think, because there's just been busier. There's a lot more people here, and I was feeling real weird yesterday. Could have been from the doctor's appointment, could have been from, I'm not even sure, but it was almost like if I closed my eyes, it's kind of still happening, but not as bad. But yesterday, it's when it started for me, is if I close my eyes, I have a hard time telling, like, my body feels like maybe I'm falling back, or like which way is gravity coming from? Like, I know it's coming from above, like the pressure is keeping me, on this chair. But it, my brain kind of feels like, oh, I could just kind of, I don't know. It was much worse yesterday, and I was feeling it last night too, like when I was trying to go to bed and I was like laying in bed and like, feel like I'm kind of on a boat, even though I'm not. So, yeah, weird. I don't know what that's about. Don't really like that. But I was noticing I was getting really overwhelmed. There was a lady here for the past couple of days, and I think she bathed in her cologne. And I say cologne because perfume and cologne tend to be gendered, but they're not actually gendered. Cologne just means like an artificial fragrance, and perfume is like extremely expensive, like more naturally produced fragrance is. So anyways, that's a very vague, not totally accurate description, but basically pretty much all of the fragrances that anybody wears today are colognes. They're not perfumes. So anyways, it's not gendered. It's just That's what it is. And you know, being autistic, I gotta be accurate. So her cologne was like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was gonna start like heaving in front of these people and they needed help with something. And I'm just like, I was breathing through my mouth, but I could taste it. I have never ever wanted to taste someone's cologne before, but here we are. And so that, like, I was walking away and I was like, I felt like I was exhaling, like I had just vaped her cologne. And now I was exhaling it and it just wouldn't leave my lungs. Anyways, it was bad. So that already made me feel nauseous and kind of might give me a headache. And so whenever I get a headache or I start feeling nauseous, all of the other sensory inputs start getting like more because like I have less of a threshold for things. So I'm still dealing with some stuff. So I probably will end up using those today too. Hoping it's a little less busy. Like, I like when it's busy and there's stuff to do. I don't like when there's a lot of people that, like, I don't know. There's a lot of people and it can get really overwhelming for me. But yeah, sensory sensitivities. I got one, not even a line into this. I swear, I'm probably only gonna get like one or two of these in. Oh my god! Next time, I'm gonna just get some like, I think we have some like black electrical tape, and I'm just gonna tape over the sensor because I hate you. Anyways, communication difficulties. That is also something to be aware of when it comes to neurodivergent people in the workplace. And you know, a lack of understanding and support leading to isolation and exclusion. It can definitely feel isolating for me when nobody else is struggling. You know? I'm the only one. Now, I used to, previously to her having a baby, we had another person here who, she had been diagnosed with ADHD. I don't think she's ever been evaluated for autism. She has ADHD and dyslexia, and we got along fantastic, and she's also very hypersensitive to scents. I feel like she's probably autistic too. Just based off of how well I know her, from talking to her quite often at work. You know, once you know, you know. I know that a lot of people who are autistic have that radar. Once they have, you know, figured that out for themselves. But it can be really isolating when, you know, I'm struggling with something and no one else is struggling with it, so I feel like my struggle isn't, you know, like I shouldn't be struggling. If nobody else is struggling, why am I struggling? And that is something that I really have to work on, because everybody is different and I am different, and my struggle, just because somebody else isn't struggling with it, doesn't mean it's not valid. My struggle is just as important as somebody else's struggle. I don't go through the same thing everybody else does either, you know? There are certain things that other people struggle with that I don't, and so I have to be empathetic to what their needs are, and that their needs are different, and I tend to be pretty supportive of other people when it comes to, you know, if I can do something, you know, or I will always suggest, like, take care of yourself first, like, do whatever it is that you need to do, you know, just, you know, That's the most important. And they tend to say the same thing for me, but it can still just feel isolating when it's like, I know you said that, but like, I have a really hard time admitting that I need help or admitting that I struggle, and just showing that vulnerability can be really hard. Especially because I used to be like the most closed off, stubborn, don't help me kind of person. And I still am, but not as bad. Like I'm aware of it and I'm trying to work on it. But yeah, I don't know where that started. It started from childhood, so it could be related to my neurodivergence, and I just didn't know it. Another aspect of neurodivergence in the workplace and what we can do are reasonable accommodations. So things like having these earplugs, sound filtering, having the ability to wear glasses when the light is too sensitive, like when you're too sensitive to the lighting. Changing the lighting if you're in an office situation where you can do that. I'm not. But I've found that having a visor occasionally to block out the overhead lighting or these glasses if things are just too bright. We have some lights at one of our locations on a dimmer, and so at the desk I will have the overhead lights dimmed a bit. So just being able to do those things is really helpful. Having the ability to have a heating pad. It's been freezing and I am very sensitive to temperature. Also just with my general back pain, I've needed it. Just because my back is so tight all the time. My muscles, I know it's because they're trying to literally keep me together. I know that my ligaments are way too stretchy. And so it makes it really hard for my everything to stay where it's supposed to be. So I know that's just my muscles trying to compensate for that. But sometimes it can be really painful. So having the ability to just accommodate your needs, assistive technology like screen readers for people who struggle with dyslexia, or even if you have other visual impairments, or if you have like different language processing issues. Sometimes it can be really difficult for people who have language processing issues. Like they need it to be in both formats in order to kind of process the information. It can seem like somebody's maybe not paying attention, or because they didn't understand what you were saying, but it's just that their brain wasn't able to process the information properly. So if they had it in multiple formats, they could kind of piece things together a little bit easier and make it better for their brain. I swear. Let's see. Yeah. I have some spelling errors. I have issues with writing things down sometimes where I mix letters up. My handwriting's not great. It's never been very good. I'll just skip letters sometimes completely. My brain's like, you wrote that already. I'm like, no, I didn't. And then sometimes I'll like mush words together. So it'll be like the first half of a word I thought about, and then like the last half of a different word I was thinking of. And I do that when I'm talking too sometimes. Don't know what that's about. If anybody listening to this knows more than me, please feel free to reach out. I put my information in every show note for every episode, so definitely, if you've got any insights, not asking for, like, free advice here, but kind of. I will pay you if you know, for sure. Like, if you are a professional, hit me up. We could do a Zoom session or something, and I could learn about myself more, because I feel like if people spend enough time with me, and I was able to communicate things better, I'd actually be able to get further in my discovery process, but I have a hard time communicating things because I'm autistic. But yeah, focusing on skills and potential, which is not a word, or maybe it is, but it's not the word I was looking for. Potential is what I meant, and I will correct this because it'll bother me. Unless I forget about it. And then next time I read it, it'll bother me, and maybe I'll fix it then, but I don't have a pen right now. But focusing on skills and potential rather than the traditional interview process. That, wish we could do more of that. I know that sometimes people will lie about their skills. You know, that happens. But I think that is partially because we have this structure that everybody has to follow, where certain skills are just the, like, main things that people are looking for, and it's across the board in, like, different industries. Like, they're all looking for the same type of person, which is so frustrating, especially when you don't fit that person. And so having the ability to be honest about what your skills really are, and focusing on those, we would have so much better outcomes when it comes to people thriving in their job, having more, impactful, meaningful, productivity, I guess you could say. What people would be producing would be of better quality and more just, if you're focusing your strengths on something, it's going to be better than if you have a bunch of people that aren't strong in those areas creating the same thing. If you just have one person that's super, super talented in one area, you should be focusing them in that area. I don't know. To me, it just makes sense. You look at everybody's strengths and you look at everybody's weaknesses, and you put people where they're strong. I mean, that's what you do in sports, which I'm not a sports person, which is apparently a really good thing now that I know for sure that I have a lot of hypermobility problems. I would have found out probably a lot sooner had I been in sports, but I would have probably also had a bunch of dislocations and been in so much pain, so it's a good thing that I wasn't in sports. But yeah, basically, if we had the ability to feel comfortable in admitting what our strengths and weaknesses are, and being able to actually focus on our strengths, I think that would improve the quality of our work immensely, and just satisfaction. Another aspect of neurodiversity, wow, diversity in the workplace. This is going to be the last one. I'm just doing one unit today. I'm all over the place. Is providing clear job requirements to reduce anxiety and improve recruitment. That's also very important. I really really dislike when there's a vague job description or the job description isn't accurate. Once you start the job, you're like, huh, you didn't tell me about that. Like, I didn't sign up for that. You should have told me that beforehand, because I probably wouldn't have taken this job if I had known about that thing. That is a huge thing for me. Being transparent up front, because I signed up for what you told me the job was going to be. You know, be honest about it. I know things aren't perfect. I know sometimes there are requirements that are like, so for salary, I have a salary position right now. I know that sometimes there's going to be requirements that are outside of like the norm. Like, it's not an everyday thing. It's like every once in a while this thing's going to happen. Tell me that, you know? And also when it comes to things that are like, oh, well, this is an extra thing that we like to do, having flexibility on, you know, I can't do that. Is that a deal breaker here? You know, I can do the rest of this job, but I can't do that one thing. Is that something that, you know, is going to be a deal breaker for this position? You know, just being able to have that conversation is really, really important, because I've had to say something about that. For me, it's networking events. Networking events are basically hell for me. It is a sensory nightmare. It's a social nightmare. I get physically ill from them, to the point where I have to leave. Like, I can't be in that environment for very long. So that's something that I've told them, like, I know it's a very rare occurrence that this is considered expected of me. I can't do that. I'm even nervous about tomorrow night. We just have a work dinner. It's gonna be super nice. It's at one of Jose Andres' restaurants. It's a tasting menu. It's like over $150 a person. It's crazy. And I'm going because who's gonna pass up that for free? Like, that would be stupid, but also it's going to be like 14 of us. Now, granted, I know all of these people, so that makes it easier, and that doing a networking event with 40 to 60 people that I don't know, that's a whole nother ball game, and that was a nightmare. I made it less than a half an hour. But for this dinner, it's gonna be all people that I know. So that's good. But I know that it's going to just be too much, because I can't follow all of the conversations that are happening. And normally, like, typical people, I feel, neurotypicals, can just focus on the couple of conversations that are happening right in front of them. The person next to you, the person next to you, people across from you. Generally there's a few people in a conversation, it kind of breaks up along the table. I find that so overwhelming. I want to sit all the way at the end, hopefully, so that I can kind of minimize how many people I'm in, like, direct ear range of. But I'm gonna have to have these 100%. I don't want to come across as rude if I'm not hearing someone talk to me. But it doesn't matter whether I have earplugs in or not. I just can't process all of the things going on. Like, when I'm at family dinners or stuff like that, I tend to be silent, and I'm just listening to everything going on. You know, I would do that at restaurants too. For the most part, I can't focus on having a conversation because there's just too much happening around me. So, yeah, it's gonna be an experience. We're all Ubering to the restaurant from work because I don't want to try and find parking in DC. Um, but yeah, I'm nervous about it. Yeah, what was this even relating to? Yeah, just job requirements, you know, and this isn't something I was required to do. I chose to do it. I told them I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, and I had to confirm a week out, and I was like, you know, I'm actually doing pretty well, and I don't want to go, and now that it's tomorrow, I'm like, ah. Anyways, it'll be fine. I'm sure they'll have a really nice bathroom I can hide in, and if I really need to, I'll get my own Uber back to my car, and it'll be okay. Thankfully, they're pretty understanding, and I don't think it will be. I think it'll be okay if I have to leave. I really don't want to though. We'll see. We'll see. Of course it's a Friday, so it's at the end of a week. So I'm already going to be tired, and it's like, yeah, there are certain, compounding things there. Man, I gotta get going. This is a long episode. I've only gotten through most of one. I swear, so many things to talk about. I love having these kind of jumping off points. This is great. I'm really enjoying this. But yeah, having tailored onboarding to support new hires' needs, that's awesome. Like, that would be great. I work for such a small company that I know that we kind of try to do that anyways, because typically you're onboarding one person at a time. So you really are trying to figure out, okay, what is this person's strengths? What is this person's weaknesses? How can I support those, weaknesses? Like, I'm not going to say any names or anything, obviously, but there's a newer hire here that has ADHD, and that's, totally fine. We have, like I said, my other coworker also had ADHD. It's not. This job is absolutely doable with neurodiversity in any form. Like, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD and autism, so it's just being aware of that has been really helpful because we can, have little reminders to be like, hey, I know that it's sometimes hard for you to remember to check all of these things because there's so many things that you have to do. And it's just checking little things to make sure they're good. So how can we structure this in a way to have little reminders so that gets done, And having it worded in a way, I'm really bad at this, at least in the moment, wording it in a way where it's supportive language, we're not upset that sometimes this gets missed, but how can we improve that in the future? What do you need to help that improve? It's not at all, coming from a place of like, oh, well, if you don't do that, then you're out of here. Like, that's absolutely, like, not what we're trying to do. It's just, these things have to get done. How can we help you? Or how can you maybe help yourself in certain ways to structure it to where, if you can't remember it, how can we have reminders externally? Because I know for ADHD especially, we need those external reminders for things. We need to externalize things because there's too much going on up here. So I like to have lists. I like to have sticky notes and lists and calendar reminders, and sometimes it takes all of those things just to get something done. But, it's worth it to, do your job properly and to have everything kind of run smoothly. We are such a small team. You really don't want, to have it fall onto someone else. We're all really close and we all value each other's time and effort. And so being able to, do your role the best way, it's worth whatever coping strategies you need to have. And just being clear on like, hey, this is a struggle for me. These are the coping strategies that I have. I'm working on it. If you have suggestions that you think may help as well, maybe we can do that. And if something that like keeps happening, no matter what you do, maybe it needs to be, that item could be switched to another person and you could take on one of their things. Just trying to best support each person in their skills. And then, promoting acceptance, respect, and understanding of different cognitive styles and abilities. I feel like I pretty much covered that. Strength-based approach creates a more inclusive and empowering environment for all employees. We really want to empower everybody to do their best, whatever that is, and to feel good about what they're doing. That's so important. And I think my management would agree, but as somebody who, has some experience and some education in small business, and, I really do value my coworkers, I definitely want everyone to feel good about what they're doing, and feel capable of the roles that they have. You don't want to put somebody in a role where they're freaking out because they don't think they can do it. That's not good for anyone. And offering neurodivergent training and development in workplaces with accommodations and continuous learning. That is the last note I have for that. For where I work, it can be hard to have specific trainings. The entire staff plus the owners of the company is 14 people, except for the part-time event staff. It's 14 people. So we can't have we can't have training specifically for different neurodiversities per se. But we do tend to have a lot more individual attention on, new hires and training, and we're always trying to improve, as a small business, trying to, find better ways of doing things, to be more cohesive and clear. And so I think we kind of do the best that we can in those areas. And because we're such a small team, everybody kind of gets to express their voice, and be a part of that process of improving and innovating. So that's pretty cool. And wow, this is a long episode. I got to go get to work now. So yeah, thank you for listening, and you are enough.